Hi everyone, this is Miss Sovi. I am going to go through your reading and quizzes for our 11/8 Digital Learning Day voting activities. So what I would like you to do is get your screen to look like mine. So you have your screen split. With one side you have your reading open, what is voting, and this needs to be open in Notability. And then on the other side you have your quiz one. Quiz one. Okay, so please pause this video, make your screen look like this, and then come back and we will go through this together. Okay, so once you have your screen looking like this, I'm going to start my quiz. So the reading and the quiz are going to go through, and the questions will come in order. So I'm in quiz 1, make sure you're in 1, not 2. I'm going to start my attempt. Okay, take a look at what my question My question 1 is, who has the right to vote in America? So as I'm reading, I'm going to look out for that question. Okay. So we are reading What is Voting by Kristen Rychek Nelson. Okay. So here we go. The right to vote. One of the benefits of being a citizen of the United States is the promise of exercising certain rights. The U.S. Constitution and its amendments state these rights. One of the most important is the right to vote. Many Americans view this as a civic duty and take great pride in it. Okay, so this is our first page. So it is saying that because if you are a citizen of the United States, you have the ability to vote. Okay, and that is something that is guaranteed in the documents that founded the United States, like Constitution and amendments. Next page. Make a choice. When members of a group of people each make a choice and each person's choice is counted, that's voting. You may have voted by simply raising your hand in class to pick what movie to watch. Some TV shows let fans call in, text, or visit a website to vote for winners each week. So this page is telling us there's many different kinds of voting. Okay. It's official. When people talk about voting, they most often mean making an official choice for a government leader. When many people vote at the same time, it's called an election. Voters visit polling places during elections. Polling places are buildings such as churches and fire stations where people gather to vote. So, what's happening today is people are going out and voting. People have to go and vote at a place. The place they vote at is called a polling place. Washington Technology, our school, is a voting place. That is why there is no school in person today, because it is not, they feel that it is not safe for us to have school when many people be coming into the school to vote. Okay. This is an official election because people are making choices for who they want the government leaders to be. So every 4 years, we vote for a president. That would be a presidential election. This year, people are voting for things like the governor, who's the leader of the state, mayor, who would be leader of the city, and other leaders like that. Kinds of ballots. At a polling place, voters use a ballot to make their choice. Ballots can be made of paper. Paper ballots are counted by hand or read by a machine. In some states, voters use computers to cast their vote. Voters press a button or touch the screen to make their choice. Okay, so how do people do the vote? Well, most time you're voting on paper. So when you walk into your polling place or the place you go to vote, you get a ballot. That is a piece of paper that has the names of the people on it. What you need to do is you need to mark who you want, and then you turn it in, and people feed that into a computer to count that up. Becoming a voter. U.S. voters must be citizens who turn 18 years old on or before the next election day. They also must be registered to vote. In order to register in a state, a person needs to live in that state for a certain amount of time. The amount of time is different from state to state. Okay, so this is telling us who can vote. You must be 18 years old and a citizen of the United States to be a voter. So that is our first question. Who has the right to vote in America? American citizens over 18 years old, anyone over 20 years old, all people, or anyone who has a job. So, what did our text say? It said US voters must be citizens who turn 18 years old. Okay, so that is what I'm going to click, and we're going next. So, our next question, we're looking at what is an election? When to vote? Most people vote on the day of an election. Many states allow people to vote before that too. Early voting helps more people vote in an election. They might even be able to vote weeks ahead of the election. The rules about early voting are different from state to state. So there is a special day that most people vote on. That is election day. That is today. But people are allowed to vote early because if let's say you're busy today and you still want to vote, you can vote early. Hmm. Absentee voting. Every state gives out ballots to people who can't vote that day of the election. This may be because they live outside of their home state. These are called absentee ballots. U.S. citizens living in other countries and people in the military often vote by absentee ballot. It is still voting even though the persons aren't there in person. So let's pretend that you live in Minnesota, but for some reason are a citizen of Minnesota, but you are living somewhere else. So you need to be able to vote. So this is something that actually happened to me. I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota, so I was registered to vote in Fargo, North Dakota, in the state of North Dakota, but I was living in Minnesota going to college. So I got an absentee ballot because so I could vote in North Dakota. That is just any time you are voting in an election, but you are not there in that state at the moment to be able to do your ballot. Hmm. Okay, before we move on to this next page, I want us to look at our quiz to see if we know what this question is. So, what is an election? When you start a new job, when many people vote at the same time, or where you buy food. So, this was one of our first pages, I believe. So, let's go and look at our choice. Okay. So, anytime that we are voting at the same time, that is an election. Yeah, so I'm going to put that. Okay. What do users use to make their choice count? A ballot, a phone call, or an email? So that was on page 10. At a polling place, voters use a ballot to make their choice. It says it right here. So that's what I'm going to pick. Okay. What is absentee voting? We just read that page. So, what is absentee voting? This should say how to vote if you are too old, a way to vote if you are not able to physically attend a polling place, or how to vote if you are too young. Okay, let's take a look at this page. Every state gives out ballots to people who can't vote the day of the election. Right. This may be because they live outside the home state. These are called absentee ballots. So this is still voting even though the voters aren't there in person. So what's the answer? Okay. So now our question is why do we have primary elections? And that is the page we are about to read. Before a major election such as a presidential election, some states have special kinds of elections called primaries. In a primary election, voters choose one person from each political party to run in the larger election. In some states, people can only vote in primary elections if they belong to a political party. People commonly vote in a primary in the same way they do in other elections. Okay, so why do we have primary elections? A, in case secondary elections don't work. B, to help more people vote. Or C, to help voters choose one person to run from each political party. So let's look at this. Right here it says, in a primary election, voters choose one person from each political party to run in the larger election. So that would be answer C. Okay, number 6, we're looking for what is a representative. Okay, well, let's go to page 20 of our story. Count for the win. After voters send in their absentee ballots or go to a polling place, votes are counted. Most often, the person who receives the most votes in is the winner. In this way, voters choose many people who serve in government, such as mayors, members of Congress, and local representatives. Next page, voters' voices. Voters never have to pay to vote. All voting is done in secret. Though most citizens over age 18 have the right to vote, some people choose not to vote. No one is forced to vote. Voting is important because it gives citizens a say in who will speak for them in the government. Okay, so we're looking for what is a representative. We'll be learning about glossaries in quarter 2. The glossaries tell us what a word means. So I'm looking for the word representative, and I want to know what it means. So I'm going to look here to see if there is the word representative here. Here it is. So it says a representative is a member of the law-making body who acts for voters. Okay. Let's see which answer matches this. A representative is a member of the lawmaking body who acts for voters. Okay, so what is a representative? A person who works at a polling place. B, someone who receives the most votes and wins the particular election. C, a person who wants to serve. Or D, a person who casts a vote. So a representative is someone who receives the most votes and wins the particular election, because then they are serving and making those choices and acts out for voters. Okay, when you are done with this first quiz, hit review, finish, and submit. Okay, so now let's take a look at quiz number 2. Okay, so this is quiz number 2. I'm going to start a new attempt. And we're going to go back to the beginning because these questions do go in order. Okay, so question 1. What do many Americans view as a civic duty? So let's read and answer these questions. One of the benefits of being a citizen of the United States is the promise of exercising certain rights. The U.S. Constitution and its amendment states these rights. One of the most important is the right to vote. Many Americans view this as a civic duty and take great pride in it. Okay, so what do we see as a civic duty? Is it voting, the Constitution, the amendments, or the benefits? We are talking about the right to vote. That is our civic duty. Okay, question 2. When each member of a group of people make a choice and that choice is counted, that is called blank. So that answer is on our next page. So let's take a look. Make a choice. When members of a group of people make a choice and each person's choice is counted, that's voting. Okay. So what is it? That's voting. So arguing, debating, voting, or counting, It is voting. What is an election? Okay, let's look at the next page. When people talk about voting, they most often mean making an election, an official choice for a government leader. When many people vote at the same time, it is called an election. So, what is an election? It is when many people vote at the same time. So, is it when you start a new job, when many people vote at the same time, or where you buy food? It is when many people vote at the same time. Okay, next question. What do voters use to make their choice count? Let's look at the next page. Kinds of ballots. At a polling place, voters use a ballot to make their choice. Okay, so what do voters use to make their choice? That would be a ballot. So is it a ballot, a phone call, an email, or a large sign? It is a ballot. Okay, who has the right to vote in America? Let's go to the next page. Becoming a voter. U.S. voters must be citizens who turn 18 years old on or before the next day. So, who can vote? Citizens who are 18 and older. So, most American citizens over 18 years old, anyone over 20, all people, or anyone who has a job. That would be A, citizens who are 18 and older. Okay, what is absentee voting? Let's take a look at the next page. Actually, 2 pages, my bad. Absentee voting. Every state gives out ballots to people who can't vote on the day of the election. This may be because they live outside of their home state. These are called absentee ballots. U.S. citizens living in other countries and people in the military often vote by absentee ballot. It is still voting even though the voters aren't there in person. Okay, so what is absentee voting? You can't vote if you are too old. A way to vote if you're not able to go to a polling place. You cannot vote if you are too young, or a way to vote if you can't read or write. Absentee voting is a way to vote if you're not able to go to the polling place. Like maybe you live in another country for a little bit of time, like maybe being in the military. Okay, question 7. Why do we have primary elections? Go to the next page. Before a major election, such as a presidential election, some states have special kinds of elections called primaries. In a primary election, voters choose one person from each political party to run in the larger election. In some states, people can only vote in primary elections if they belong to a political party. People commonly vote in the primary election in the same way they do in other elections. Okay, so why do we have primary elections? In case secondary elections don't work, to help more people vote, or to choose one person to run from each political party. So, what did it say over here? Voters choose one person from each political party to run in the larger election. So, that is answer C. Okay, question 8. Most often, the person who receives the most votes is the winner. Is that true or false? Okay. Count for the win. This is page 20. After voters send in their absentee ballots or go to a polling place, votes are counted. Most often, the person who receives the most votes is the winner. Okay, that is the same sentence. Most often, the person who receives the most votes is the winner. Was that true or false? That was true. Question 9. Voters must pay. Okay, let's go to page 22. Voters never have to pay to vote. Well, it says right here, voters never have to pay. So voters must pay to vote. Is that true or false? That would be false. Last question. Voting is always done in secret. Okay, let's keep reading. Though most citizens over age 18 have the right to vote. Some people choose not to vote. No one is forced to vote. Voting is important because it gives citizens a say who will speak for them. Okay, so voting is done in secret. It says that right here. It says right here, voting is always done in secret. So that would be true. Okay, so you need to review, hit submit, and turn it in. Once you've gotten these 2 quizzes done and you've done the reading, you are done for the day. If you are missing any retails, please get those done and turn them in. Have a good rest of your day.